Right, I'm going to talk about judicial norms. Okay, so we have norms in society, social norms. For example, if my neighbour greets me, normally I greet her back, otherwise it would be rude. This is a social norm. Or if I eat, I don't use my hands, I use a knife and a fork, or maybe, I wear clean clothes and I wash. These are all social norms which discipline our behaviour. But judicial norms are formal, not like social norms which are informal. That is, they're made by the state to discipline our behaviour so that we can live better. And the state chooses and nominates a judge to judge our behaviour, to check that we haven't broken these norms. And if we have, if the judge does find that we've broken these judicial norms, there are unpleasant consequences. Normally we are punished, we have to go to prison or we pay a fine. With social norms we do have unpleasant consequences, but they're not so serious. For example, if I don't greet my neighbour thinks I'm rude, so I get a bad reputation. Or if I don't wash, nobody wants to stay with me or be my friend. So there are consequences, unpleasant consequences for social norms, but judicial norms are more serious. Now, we've got 5 characteristics for judicial norms. The first one is they're positive. So this means that the state has to make them. It has to actually produce the norms. If they're not produced by the state, then I don't have to do it. For example, if a policeman sees some rubbish on the floor, he can't tell me to pick it up. There's not, I can tell him to pick it up in that case. The policeman has the authority to apply the law, but he hasn't got the authority to tell me what to do, because the state hasn't produced a rule in that case. Maybe if someone else threw it down, then if the policeman says pick it up, maybe he forgets about it if you pick it up. But it's not the rule that you have to pick up the rubbish because he's decided you've broken the rules. No, the judge decides what the consequences are. So there must be a production. The state must produce these rules, these norms. And these norms are abstract. So the second thing is they're abstract. That means they're for a hypothetical situation. So they're for all situations. They describe a hypothetical situation to be applied to a real situation. I'll give you an example. A specific situation would be if I said, John must not steal the pen of other students. But that describes a specific situation. But if I say nobody must steal, nobody, doesn't matter if it's a pen or money or whatever, nobody. So that is abstract. That's not describing a concrete situation, a real situation. And also they're general. So they're not just for a specific person, they're for everybody. We always say in England, no one is above the law. We have a rule of law. So the rules must be applied to everybody. So it's not just John must not steal, but nobody must steal. Okay, so these rules, these are what makes them rules or norms. And not commands. In a dictatorship, you have more commands. The dictator, maybe he decides, oh, you mustn't do that, or you go to prison. But in a democracy, the people have the power, so the people elect the representatives to apply the rules that the people want. And it's not just somebody with power, but the rules are where the power is. and they're for everybody and for all situations. So nobody, if it's not the case, then somebody has too much power if they decide. So general, they've got to be general. So we've said positive, they've got to be produced by the state, abstract, they're a hypothetical situation, and general, they're for everybody, not just one person or group of people. And then the next one is they're obligatory. So if there's a rule, everybody must obey the rule. So a policeman cannot close an eye. You know, he likes somebody, or somebody is a friend of his or one of his family. He can't say, oh yeah, okay, you park there, I'll look over there. But then someone else, you can't park there because the rule says you can't park there. No, in that case, you're not applying the rules. You're just applying what the policeman wants. So they've got to be obligatory. Remember, again, it's got to be a rule of law, not the rule of someone, what someone wants. So the rules must be obligatory for everybody. They must be enforced. Otherwise, you can just create corruption and favoritism. Okay, and the last one is coactivity. This means that there must be a consequence, unpleasant consequences. If the rules are broken, there must be unpleasant consequences, or people would not respect the rules. And we want the consequences to be commensurate to the seriousness of the offence. So we don't want, little offences punished very heavily to get, a perfect behaviour, so then nobody breaks the rule. No, they've got to be commiserate to the seriousness of the offence. Means light offences or violations have light consequences. Heavy violations, heavy consequences. If, for example, in Saudi Arabia, if you steal, they cut off your hands, so it's a very heavy consequence. But they don't have thieves, obviously. People don't disrespect this law, but the system actually produces extremists and purists and people that act in very extreme ways, and terrorists in the end. So what we want is a sense of justice. If you commit a light offence, then you throw up your hands and say, oh, fair enough, I should be punished and I accept my punishment. And then we've managed to get people to want to support the system. If you don't have a sense of justice, in the end you'll get a revolution, you'll get rebellion, and people won't want to support the system. But if there's light offences and people accept to be punished, then you don't have a rebellion, you get people supporting the system. So in a democracy, it's very important, this principle of the punishment being commiserate to the seriousness of the offence. And we're not looking for perfect behaviour.